The following is brought to you by our friends over at Actable. Actable gives you the power to profit. Please check them out at actable.com and enjoy today's show. Hey, Anthony, it is great to see you. I like how crystal clear we're looking. Nice.
I'm purely crystal. Why are you in the kitchen? Get out of the kitchen. It's too hot.
Oh, that's a good point. Because earlier we recorded a show on kitchens and stuff like that. But thank goodness, with the magic I have, I could go like that, and now I could be somewhere more exotic. What do you think about that?
You're more exotic and I'm in my library.
Oh my goodness. So, Anthony, what we're going to be talking about today, I think we got a common theme going this week. We're really focused on F&B. We're going to be talking about training for F&B. And today's guest, I'm very excited because we got Mary D'Argenis Fernandez. She's president of MDA Hospitality Solutions. They do F&B training. I don't want to step on the lead. They did the new Waldorf in New York City, and by new I mean old, but new again. Let's welcome Mary to the show. Mary, welcome. It is so great to
Hi.
see you. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me today.
All right, so how does this work? Training to get them going and stuff like that. And
Specifically the Waldorf. I'm very excited to hear about that.
I know, like, where do you come in? How does this all begin? We'll start there, and then we're going to go in the Wayback Machine and talk about your career a little bit. But
Sure.
let's
Absolutely.
start with how does all of this come together?
Well, we've been a partner for Hilton America's managed properties since 2017. And so it's a natural progression that we worked in collaboration with the team on the opening of the Waldorf Astoria New York. And specifically, what we did is we support the training for all of the operations in collaboration with the leaders of those operations. So the food and beverage director, the senior vice president, all of the leaders of the outlets. So it would be Peacock Alley, Lex Yard, Yoshoku, in-room dining, and private bar. Those are the 5 areas. And then we returned for banquets. In total, we were on site for 8 weeks with my team. And we worked on that for roughly 6 months prior to being on site. So it's the development of the calendar. What does the training day look like? How do we divide amongst all those different areas? What are the learning objectives? And then we see that through fruition. The on-site training for the initial opening was 5 weeks. And then, as I mentioned, we returned for 3 more weeks for the banquets, which opened, I believe it was July.
Yeah.
And how many employees came back that were, how long was it closed? 5 years, 6 years,
At
7?
least I feel like 20 years. Oh my God.
I
I was at the last event there and it felt like 100 years ago.
No, it had to have been 2018, 19. I was going to make a joke that you haven't been working much longer than that place has been closed with Hilton. But
I to be honest, I would remember it then. I don't recall. I believe it has definitely been over 5 years, potentially 8. That I would misquote.
COVID, forgive everybody. Anything pre-COVID seems to like flown into each other. It's so strange. Great to see world class property back and have you be a part of it, Anthony. Sorry.
Those employees actually came back.
Well, again, I wouldn't wanna misrepresent how many team members are there, but there were quite a few.
More than
So
one, less than all.
yeah, yeah, there were quite a few that returned.
That's amazing after
And
all that time that they came home.
and with the banquets team as well, there were a lot that returned from the banquets department.
Yeah.
Right, so
At the Waldorf in banquets, you can make a nice living.
yeah, so when you're working at the Waldorf, it's a pretty high level.
Mhm.
How does the training really come together, and what are you actually training for? Because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's not basic stuff like this is a fork, but probably, more on the systems and operations, but really at what level are you working at there?
So that's a great question. If you think about all of the work operators put into getting to an opening, there's a variety of details that take place from developing menus.
Right.
Cocktails was actually largely led by another company.
Mhm.
So we worked on the sequence of service, the steps of service, all of the F&B processes, as well as the food knowledge. So we would partner on the other aspects of it. So if you think about all of the menu items that they have, each day we have to launch several of those. And then it would be how do the team members acquire and learn that knowledge and retain it? So that on the first day that they open, it's as if they've been open for 100 years. It needs to be that it's not the first day of opening. They need to be polished, ready to go. So it would be, we divide it into 3 categories. It's content, mock service, and trial meals, otherwise known as friends and family. So content is the acquisition of the knowledge. Mock service is team-on-team training in the space. And then the last step is friends and family, where outside guests would come in and we have QR codes where they can rate the service and give us feedback so that we can take action on that immediately before it opens.
Among all the challenges, and if you're in this business for more than a couple of years, you understand how big of a challenge that was, what you just said.
Mhm. Yeah.
What you did in opening up the Waldorf is probably the biggest opening in our country in the hospitality business in quite a while. And that's it because of the 100 years, because of the legend, because of the expectations. So out of all the surprises, and I'm sure at this point in your career, you're not surprised too often, but was there one surprise even you said, "Oh, I wasn't ready for that one"?
Um, no, I think we really, there were no surprises that I felt. I mean, we've been working with Hilton for 8 years now, and we know the team very well. I think a great surprise was just how wonderful the team was, right? Like, that they were so talented. You're pulling from the best experience in not only New York City, but the country.
Yep.
They hired the best. So when you're working with the best, it kinda makes your job a little bit easier. But there were things that needed to be, taught because you're bringing a lot of different people together for a monumental opening.
So it's
Your based on your experience, that would be your answer, and that's
so does it become less of this is how you do it as opposed to this is the Waldorf way of doing it? Does that make
Yeah.
nuance make sense?
It is because, everyone has different skills from where they worked before, and even if they were at the Waldorf or, before it closed, you have to bring all of these people, hundreds of new team members and old team members together so that they're working cohesively. So it's a team building, it's ensuring that everyone feels comfortable and confident. There's a lot of, interesting recipes, so there's a lot to it in terms of, like, the service style and what is the expectation.
you know, um, I would imagine that even the young people that don't understand the legend of the Waldorf, when you're in those walls, Eric Long was my mentor, right? And Eric Long was there 20 years. And John Doherty, I've known John for many, many years, and he was the youngest chef ever at the Waldorf, and he was there for 20 years. He was there for 20 years, more than 20 years. Matter of fact, at Eric Long's retirement, John Doherty, he got on stage and all he said was, "Working for you was hard." And then he got off the stage. That place has like, that's my heart. I just love the Waldorf. Did the people coming in that maybe are new to the Waldorf get it? Like, did they understand that
Mhm.
building they were in?
Oh, 100%. They were so proud to be there. It was an incredible level of, respect for our industry, people that really love what we do and were in quest of delivering the best service. So, 100%, they spoke about it every day. There was a lot of pride.
Yeah, there's a lot of legacy and a lot of things to look, to hold, and not change so much, but just kind of make it better, but you keep that legacy because a lot of things. I mean, you could probably state it better than anybody. How many things actually were created and invented at the Waldorf?
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Did you marry when you were scooping ice cream at Disney World? You were, back in the college program, ever imagine that food and beverage would be your life and you'd work with world-class companies like this?
Never, never. Actually, I started with Disney when I was in high school.
It's
So
high school, not even the college program.
yeah, it's pre-college. My dad, used to travel to Orlando just to stay at Disney. He ran his business from Orlando in the summer,
Mhm.
and we would vacation, and when I turned 16, he took, my Social Security card, and we got a Florida ID, and he said, "It's time to work."
Wow.
So, I was given 2 options, custodial or food and beverage. Being a 16-year-old, I selected food and beverage and, never looked back. I've had the time of my life. In college, I was pre-law. I thought I was gonna be an attorney, and I'm just so happy that I ended up in this industry.
What was it that made you want to make food and beverage your life?
I really think it's the Disney company. I had such a great experience working for them
Yeah.
that it probably launched me in the right direction because my family's background is business.
Mhm.
So while I'm in food and beverage, or I started in food and beverage, really I look at it as business and trying to, increase net profit and trying to find ways. And food and beverage is probably one of the most complicated operations.
Yeah, it's challenging, was complicated, and turnover is insane. And so you have to be a special type of person. I always said, I'm a hotel guy, right? And of course, I've run a lot of restaurants and culinary, but my heart is the front of the house. And but I have so much respect for people that I partner with that handle the hard parts of the business, which is the food and beverage. And you know better than anybody, you can have one restaurant
Mm.
in a 1,000-room hotel, and that one restaurant takes up 80% of your brain, right? So how do you keep that love with the turnover, with all the challenges, with you can charge $500 for a room today and 3,000 for a room tomorrow. A steak is a steak is a steak. You can charge maybe 30 bucks or 40 bucks, you can't charge 3,000. So
Mhm.
the profit margin,
Did you Anthony Salt pay? He charges the, I'm like, "Dip it in cold, baby." Yeah, sorry, go on, Mary.
he blew himself up. But anyway, Bobby Flay was saying the other day on some TikTok, he said, a Tuesday night restaurant is $100 a person. Just a regular Tuesday night restaurant is $100 a person, and they're not even making money, right? So how do you deal with just all of these, not only the labor shortage, the labor market, the technical shortage, but just the margins are just so small.
You're absolutely right. I mean, as I told you, like my background is business, and if you look at all the places where I've worked, we've always increased the net profit. And so the reason why I'm in the space that I am today, which is training and development, is because if you want to increase your net profit, you have to have the right people working for you and they need to know how to do their jobs well. And so we see that from this basis, while we enter with training, it's really it leads to increased guest satisfaction, reduced employee turnover, and a higher net income. And we see that with every place that we work with. So
But don't you
that
find outside the Waldorfs and the Hiltons, don't you find what I find is that training is the first thing to go off the P&L.
100%.
We don't have any money for training. It's like, then you might as well close your building,
Mhm.
right? You see that over the years that people, it's like more challenging because people are like, well, we don't have money for training right now. I'm only at 60%. I can't train. I don't have employees and I don't have money.
Right. Uh, I think it's an excuse,
Yeah.
and it's really, having done this for as long as I have and seeing the results of this work. I worked for a property before I started my company, and I was there for 5 years. And we were bleeding in terms of net income by a lot,
Mhm.
and we had a terrible, retention rate. And when we started working on this process, it's deliberate, it's intentional, it's something that you have to do every day. It's like working out. You
Right.
can't expect to get great results when you work out once a week or never, So you have to continuously have a plan and a strategy. If you don't have that strategy for developing your people, they're going to walk away and your guests will as well.
Right. And, people work for people to have their back. And
Mhm.
trading, you're telling me I care about you. I have your back. Like I'm going to teach you. I remember when I walked into the plaza as a night manager, and they would just threw me into the role. And then I became director of front office. And I literally took the Bellman and Dorman's break room for our training class because there was no training going on at the plaza in 1992. We actually started our own training at the plaza because, and I started hiring people who had no hotel experience because the people that were there were doing a great job. But like you said, I was intentional about the training. I'll hold you accountable to high standards, but I have to hold myself accountable for you. And it's not got any better. And thank God for companies like yours that can get into that door. And it's not, it seems to me that the five-star hotels, the Waldorfs, the legacy properties, will spend that money because they know what's at stake. But it's the mid-level companies, the 3.5, 4-star hotels that need it even more desperately because those people aren't coming out of the kitchens of the Waldorf or of the Michelin star kitchens. So they really need the basic, where's the spoon, where's the fork, basic training. And if you give them that, they will become that great employee.
Well, I think you can use the Chick-fil-A example. That's definitely not, you're not talking 5-star, but you get a 5-star experience by going to Chick-fil-A. even the way they expedite the drive-through. But they invest a lot in training. They ensure that their people are trained well and they use the right language and they take care of their guests. And the lines will wrap around the building around a Chick-fil-A, and you can go two stores over and they're not doing as well.
I went through a Chick-fil-A drive-through a couple of days ago, and I've been through several, a couple times. But I just went through, and I literally, as I'm driving out of the drive-through, I said out loud to myself, without realizing it, that was delightful. Literally said that was delightful. And they don't say no problem. They say my pleasure. Right? It took them 2 years to get that through everybody's head. But it is absolutely insane to go through that drive-through and then go through their competitor's drive-through, which we won't name. That is horrific. And it's like steal from your competition, but they can't steal because they won't spend the money. And those managers, to your point, those managers with Chick-fil-A make 150 grand a year.
Mm.
McDonald's makes 68,000 a year. So there's a difference there. They're investing in that product, and everybody like us, we talk about it. I talk about it every leadership class I talk about. I talk about get rid of no problem and talk about my pleasure. And it took Chick-fil-A 2 years to do that, and everybody has the same story about Chick-fil-A. So why their profits are better than most of their competitors. So you are a beacon for people to understand, like invest, man. Just like your business, or you're investing in yourself, or you're investing in your children, you have to invest in training before you invest in almost anything else.
Yep, I agree.
Mary, I'm curious as to what was missing in the market that you felt you could start your own business, and then also what gave you the guts to do it? Because that's pretty serious move to do.
Yeah, that's another great question. Originally, when I started the company, it was focused on increasing profits.
Mhm.
And I was working with several companies to do that. And what happened was in 2017, I started getting a lot of calls for training.
Interesting.
And it was from people that had worked with me previously. They knew the results of what I had done for other companies, and they're like, "Do you think you could just do that for our company?" And then many long-term relationships were established as a result of it. So my business pivoted based upon what requests were coming in. And so that's really how it happened. I didn't intend for it to be this way originally, but the need in the marketplace was more for what we have, and we're seeing phenomenal results.
Good for you. That's really impressive that you not only did you start your own business, but then you were able to read the tea leaves out there and see where to go. Anthony?
Well, Mary, in your space, the thing that concerns me the most is people go into your space coming out of college or coming out of a year or two of work, and then they become training experts or they become consulting experts.
Mhm.
And you are hardened by this business. You can see it in your tone of voice. Even when I answered the question about the Waldorf, before you answered, I knew your answer because you were just like, no, there's no surprises. We're prepared for everything, and we work with great people, and that level of experience doesn't you don't find that too often, and you have to pay for that. But
Mhm.
there's so many people that come into your side of the business that don't understand Sunday morning standing in a lobby with 600 check-ins, 600 checkouts, with 2 bellmen and crap hitting the fan and what that feels like. Or having a banquet and the ovens don't work, you know, and the chicken's going out cold. There's a feeling that happens that is so, uh, just so emotional that's where I would imagine why you're so good at what you do. So when he asked that question to you about, why would you do this or whatever, it's like you've been built for this.
Yeah, and my team is built for this. So, I think you hit it right on the head, which is we are not our team has, years of experience in leadership. And so that's what's most important is that they understand how to fix a lot of those challenges, but they don't. They lean on the leaders, but then they know how to translate that when they're working with the employees. So if a leader says to us, "We need this to happen," we know what that means. And so, I think that is number one, is that we are built from trainers that, like, I use the word trainer, but really everyone on the team has been an executive or a food and beverage director. So they're not even entry level leaders. They have been doing this for a long time and they're skilled, and that's why I think we're so successful. But another thing I think we do well, and it's interesting, I go to a lot of conferences. I was just at one last week, and they're not focused on service. There's a lot of focus right now on AI, and the service element is really where we excel. So we have a niche in that aspect, but we also have leaders that have experience.
Right.
And you know what I say is AI, then you're going to be left behind. However, there's less touch points than there were even now than there were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So that one employee or two employees that you come in contact with, that service level has to be so intense. And you know better than anybody working at Disney World, I realized writing my book that I didn't realize this, that I fell in love with the business when I was 9 years old in the parks, and I asked the gentleman cleaning the park where something was, or my mother asked where something was. And he brought us there. He knew about the rides. He knew how to get there. He knew the shortcut. He knew the information. And years later, when I was reading a book by Disney, because I was running Nickelodeon, he said those were the most trained people at Disney back in the day because they're the ones who are most approachable. And that's the moment at 9 years old, talking to that person, I fell in love with the park. I fell in love
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
so you're gonna have less connection, but those connections have got to be meaningful.
And if you look at Disney's retention, it is like they just celebrated their 50th anniversary here in Orlando. And I knew several of the cast members that started in 1971. They worked with me. And so they're there for 50 years. I watched the post, and they're very proud, and it's Disney invests in their people.
For sure. And Mary, you're also, I'm sure, pretty proud of the fact that you're branching overseas. You're gonna be working with Manja's Resorts over there in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just in Sicily, in Brucoli, and as well Sardinia. So we were really proud of that. So that was amazing.
Well, listen, I love Sicily. I'm Sicilian. I spent time in Sicily, and the food's the best, but they need you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I went to Menino's last night for dinner here in town. Thanks for the idea. But I'm sure not as good as going over to Italy. So, any nuances that you saw that you had to kind of change the way you do training, either culturally or whatever?
Yeah, it was amazing. So we actually had in many of our trainings, we train in both English and Spanish, and we also translate a lot of our
You meant
documents.
they only spoke Italian. That must.
Yeah, of course. So what I did is, we retained, someone that I worked with at the Four Seasons, who is from Sicily, and he helped us in both of those projects. So we were there, but he was our translator. And then we also, had everything, translated into English prior, and we also learned how to use the closed caption on PowerPoint, which as you speak
Can do
yeah,
that.
as you speak, it translates it into the language. If I spoke in English, it translated into Italian, and if they spoke, I could have it translated into English for me.
And of all the places in Italy, the one place where it's hard to find English speaking people, Sicily. I
Really?
I I did 2 shows in Sicily, and nobody spoke English, and it was fact. Not only they don't speak English, they have no time for you. They don't care. And I fell in love with it because the food, the people were lovely and warm, but they don't speak English, and you need to learn Sicilian in, 24 hours.
Yeah, they were amazing. I'll tell you one takeaway that I found really interesting. We have, an activity called The Words You Choose, and it's like kinda what you were saying, no problem, 2 negative words putting together to kinda answer something for a guest, rather my pleasure is better. When we're gonna use this, kind of modified for Italian, we learned that in Sicily, at least where we were, they didn't use any slang at all. They didn't use any, like, negative words, so they're like, "This really doesn't apply to us," and what they asked for instead is, "Could you please teach us some proper ways to say things in English?" So they took that activity and switched it into something that would benefit them, but yeah, they don't use a lot of slang, they are much more proper, and they wanted to, really understand the best way to speak in English when they're talking with their guests.
Well, that's pretty neat. I
Mhm.
love that. So, Mary, before we wrap up today, give us one actionable insight that folks can do to make their teams just a little bit better immediately.
I would say invest 5 minutes a day on training. So if you have a pre-shift, did you devote 5 minutes towards something that would help them learn? And speak less, listen more, let them do the speaking, because if you're speaking, you're not really allowing them to learn. So take that 5 minutes and have them teach you what they know.
You know, I love that. And, one of the things I train is if you don't have a pre-shift, it's like flying an airplane without, without navigation. It's like, I don't understand how you can land the plane if you don't pre-shift it, right? If you look at whether it be a doctor or whether it be a pilot, when you look at a pilot when the cockpit's open before you take off, they're going through that same checklist that they went through for 30 years over and over and over again. And they're looking at it. They're not just checking it off. They're looking at so checklists and training and pre-shifting, you do those 3 things in 10-4 and more, like say hello when you pass somebody, you do those things and you turn around the company. And
Yeah.
people just they're looking, I'd imagine you find this that people are looking for the big thing. During
Mhm.
it's the
Mhm.
small things,
Exactly.
especially in our industry where when you're staying in a hotel, you're staying at home. You're doing everything in a hotel you do at home. So that connection is more emotional than even just going to a restaurant because like you have to feel safe.
Mhm.
And so I applaud, and I've heard about your company and I know you do great things. So please stay in the green room so we can spend it together.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Awesome. Mary, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. Check out MDA Hospitality Solutions. That was really fun. And
Yeah.
thank yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the most important everything in our industry today, all these consultants, all these businesses, she has the most important business in our business, period.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, more than ever, you know, I don't stop saying it, humanity, keep it in hospitality. That is the way to do it.
And you know what we suck at in the hospitality industry?
What?
Hospitality.
All right, let's get controversial as we wrap up.
We gotta train. We gotta because you get good at hospitality by training. You don't get good at hospitality by waking up in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. Make sure you get back on the training regimen. All right, listen to us on LinkedIn, download the show wherever you get your podcast, find us on YouTube, and of course, novacancynews.com. Thanks, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
see you next time, everybody. Have a great afternoon.